You feel like you're not doing enough, like everyone else is moving forward and you're just stuck. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the world is just too fast? Today, the Tao will help you reclaim your natural pace and your peace. They don't teach you this, but being behind is a modern invention, a myth born in timelines, clocks, and toxic comparison. We measure ourselves against a speed that was never ours to begin with, but the Tao doesn't rush, and yet everything is accomplished. So, what if you're not lost, just disconnected from your own rhythm? The myth of falling behind. What does it really mean to be behind? Behind who? Behind what? The moment you were born, they gave you a calendar and started the race. Graduate by 22, succeed by 30, be settled by 35. Or else you failed. But the Tao says, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. So maybe the failure isn't yours, maybe it's the system. This modern urgency makes you believe you're late to a party that doesn't even exist. And worst of all, it turns living into catching up. You're not allowed to wander, to slow down, to pause and breathe. But water, in Taoist wisdom, never rushes. It flows with the terrain. Maybe your terrain just isn't linear, and that's okay. You've confused stillness with stagnation. But one is sacred, the other is self-abandonment. A flower is still when it's growing underground. You may not see it, but the roots are deepening. So ask yourself, are you really behind or just hidden in bloom? In the modern world, movement is mistaken for meaning. The more you do, the more valid you feel, even if nothing inside you has changed. But Taoism teaches, doing nothing is better than being busy doing nothing. So we have to ask, are we actually progressing or just avoiding stillness? Because being busy is the easiest way to avoid ourselves. You check off tasks like you're chasing oxygen. Emails, meetings, errands, reels, likes. The dopamine hits keep coming, but deep down, something feels missing. Not because you're lazy, but because you're misaligned. You're building speed, but on the wrong road. Busyness steals the very silence where wisdom is born. And without silence, you can't hear your own path calling. In Taoism, the sage knows when to act and when to be still. It's not about stopping life, it's about moving with life, not against it. Can you feel the difference between force and flow? Comparison is a thief of identity. You scroll past someone's perfect life, and suddenly yours feels broken. But Taoism warns, when you compare yourself to others, you rob yourself of your own nature. You weren't born to live their path, and they weren't born to live yours. Still, the world feeds you rankings, milestones, and silent competitions. No wonder your self-worth feels like it's always at risk. Comparison creates a false urgency, a panic that you're behind in a race you never chose. But the Tao doesn't compare the mountain to the ocean. Both exist in harmony because they serve different roles. So why do you keep measuring your value through someone else's lens? That lens was never built for your shape. You lose your rhythm every time you chase theirs. And worst of all, you lose yourself. But when you return to your own nature, something quiet happens. You stop trying to catch up and start unfolding. What if your pace was never the problem, just the direction? When effort becomes resistance, you've been taught that effort is everything. Push harder, try more, hustle, struggle. But the Tao asks, why swim upstream when the river already knows the way? Sometimes effort isn't strength, it's fear disguised as control, because we think deep down that if we don't force life, it will abandon us. But Wu Wei, the Taoist principle of effortless action, reminds us there is a difference between acting and overacting. A tree doesn't force itself to grow, it simply follows its nature, responding to the sun, the wind, the seasons. So why do you think your life must be forced into shape? If you're constantly exhausted, maybe it's not because you're weak. Maybe it's because you're fighting what's already trying to carry you. You weren't born to be in resistance, you were born to be in rhythm. Real power isn't about control, it's about surrender. And what if surrender is how you finally move forward? We think we're behind in life, but often we're just behind in listening to ourselves. The noise of the world is so loud, trends, expectations, pressure, that you can't hear your own truth. And the Tao whispers, "He who knows others is wise, but he who knows himself is enlightened." So why do we spend so much time outside when the peace is inside? Disconnection doesn't scream. It numbs. You don't feel inspired anymore, just obligated. Not joyful, just efficient. And soon you forget who you were before you became who you should be. This is the invisible burnout, the soul's exhaustion. But when you return to yourself, even for a moment, something shifts. A breath becomes sacred, a pause becomes a home. The Tao isn't outside of you, and it flows through you. You were never meant to keep up with the world. You were meant to realign with your own essence. The right time is not a deadline. You should be there by now. That voice, sometimes yours, sometimes theirs, demands urgency. But the Tao responds with a question: who decides the right time? Modern life created deadlines for everything, even for blooming. And when you don't hit them, you feel like you've failed the universe. But nature doesn't run on clocks, it runs on cycles. The moon doesn't rush to shine. Bamboo grows underground for years before breaking the surface. And still, it's never called slow, it's called wise. You're not late, you're simply not ready young yet. And that is sacred too. Every delay might be protection. Every pause, a portal. Every not yet could be preparing the finally. In Taoist wisdom, right timing doesn't arrive through force, it comes through ripeness. You don't need to chase time. Maybe you just need to trust that yours is unfolding. You say you feel lost as if that's a flaw, but Taoism teaches to be lost is to be on the edge of being found. What if this confusion, this sense of not knowing where to go next, is actually sacred ground? Because certainty often leads to repetition. But getting lost, that's when something new can finally enter. The modern world hates uncertainty, so it pushes answers, blueprints, life plans. But the Tao flows through the unknown, not the predictable. If everything feels foggy now, maybe it's because you're stepping out of old illusions. And fog always lifts when you stop trying to control the horizon. What if being lost is how you return to yourself? Not by rushing to clarity, but by standing still long enough to hear your inner compass. The way is not always a map. Sometimes it's a moment. And in that moment, lost becomes silence, and silence becomes guidance. You're not just trying to succeed, you're trying to be seen by parents, by friends, by strangers on a screen. But Taoism warns, care about people's approval, and you will be their prisoner. Every time you chase validation, you abandon a piece of your truth, and the more you chase it, the more invisible you feel. This is why the modern world is so exhausting. You're not tired from doing too much. You're tired from pretending too much, pretending to be okay, pretending to be ahead, pretending to fit in. But the Tao doesn't ask you to perform. It asks you to return to what is simple, honest, and enough. You were never meant to be a projection. You were meant to be a presence. And your worth? It was never something to prove, just something to remember. So stop asking the world who you are. Ask the silence within you and trust the answer. You've been taught to only celebrate what's visible. Followers, achievements, numbers, proof. But Taoism teaches the greatest things are not seen. They are felt. Real growth doesn't shout. It unfolds in silence. And just because no one sees your progress doesn't mean it isn't happening. Healing isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like choosing rest over pressure, or walking away instead of proving your point, or simply waking up and breathing without guilt. That's transformation. Quiet, steady, true. The seed doesn't bloom the day it's planted, and it doesn't bloom to impress. It blooms because it's time. So don't measure your journey by visibility. Measure it by alignment, by peace, by the way you're learning, finally, to be gentle with yourself. Maybe you're not late. Maybe the world just got too fast, and you're finally remembering how to slow down. There's no final destination to reach, only a deeper return to yourself. The Tao isn't something you achieve, it's something you allow. And sometimes doing less is the most powerful thing you can do. So today, take one quiet breath. Let the noise pass. Let the rush dissolve. Because peace isn't found in doing more. It's found in no longer needing to prove anything at all. If this video made you feel something, like, comment, I begin again, and subscribe. It helps keep this message alive and might reach someone who needs it most.